Think firing Jay Powell is an option?
When asked whether the president wants to fire the Fed Chair Jay Powell, the White House economist Kevin Hassett on Friday said the president and his team will continue to study the matter.
Live now to the US West Coast and Christopher Clark, professor of economics at Washington State University. How much is this now fueling the total lack of confidence in the US economy?
It is absolutely one of the contributing factors. Not only is the world leader in trade shrinking back from that, but responsible financial management and professionalism, which is one of the core of doing business, is all under threat, being taken over by politicized and corrupt practices.
The markets dipped the following Monday, but then they recovered on Tuesday because...
None whatsoever. Never did.
There are real concerns that the president could put too much pressure on the Fed to keep the rates too low, which could cause inflation. We've seen this before. In the early 1970s, President Richard Nixon privately pressured the Fed president to ease policy ahead of the '72 election. And while the inflation of the 1970s is often blamed because of the large oil shocks, recent research is showing the evidence for that to be fairly weak. Here, I can walk through this graph. The red line is the inflation rate, and we see it started going up in 1972, which is before the 1974 oil price shock that we can see in the black line. And again, in the second inflationary shock, we see the rise in inflation started in '78, whereas the oil shock was some time afterwards. Here's the source.
And that independence we have found by comparing central banks across the globe adds to more inflation stability. When a central bank is closely run by the government, there is pressure to keep those interest rates low, which lead to a higher long-run average inflation rate.
And here's some of the papers I was summarizing from decades ago, Alicina and Summers, 1993. When looking at developed countries, they find that when the central bank has more independence on the right, it also has lower long-run inflation. Here's a more recent paper from 2020 looking at developing countries, finding that exact same picture.
This isn't just a hypothetical. Here's part of a report from the Wall Street Journal just 4 years ago. After years in which he has weakened Turkish institutions and centralized power, Mr. Erdogan has now assumed broad control over the economy, with no one within the government to oppose him. Erdogan has successfully pressured the central bank to slash interest rates despite rapid inflation. So, after peaking at more than 75% in May last year, inflation in Turkey has now eased to a gentle 38%.
Well, the laws of economics don't care what country you're from. What happened in Turkey could easily happen here.
I could just say for myself, I'm very happy the president has since pulled back on the rhetoric for now. For the full interview, check out my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Bye.